Hello everyone, welcome to chemistry class. We've been covering the chapter number 2, physical and chemical changes, and in the last class we had discussed the various kind of changes observed around us. They can be reversible and irreversible changes, periodic and non-periodic, desirable and undesirable, and the physical and chemical changes. Today we will be covering the remaining part of this chapter, that is, can physical and chemical changes occur together? Is there a possibility? Then we will have a look on the different kind of energy changes, exothermic and endothermic changes observed around us. Let us begin the chapter now. So here we have the first topic of the day, can physical and chemical changes occur together? So is it a possibility or not that in the same activity or in the same observation we can say that physical as well as chemical changes are possible? The answer is yes, there are many such observations, and one of such observation we have the example here, that is burning of candle, where physical as well as chemical changes can take place both at the same time. Simultaneously they are happening together at the same time. How it is happening? First we will read the first point, how the physical change is happening. So the wax is melting. Whenever the burning of candle is taking place, the wick is burning there, but the wax around there, because of the heat energy that is generated there, because of that the wax starts melting, and the wax on melting it starts flowing down the candle, and as it comes down it again becomes solid at the bottom of the candle. So melting and solidifying of the wax of the candle is an example of physical change. It is a reversible change. The wax can melt and solidify any number of times. So that is why a physical change is taking place in the burning of candle. Second thing, now a part of the molten wax, some part of the wax melts and flows downwards, that is, it becomes solid downwards, but not all the wax flows down. Some part of the wax is used in the burning of candle, that we can say burning of wax is taking place. When the candle is burning, there is some part of the wax which is burning, and it is producing what? It is producing carbon dioxide and water vapor. Carbon dioxide and water vapor are the new products that are formed in this reaction of the burning of wax. So because the wax is burning there, and burning is an example of chemical change, that is why we can say that burning of the candle is a perfect example where physical as well as chemical changes occur together. We will now move on to the next important kind of changes that are observed in physical as well as chemical changes. These changes are energy changes related to the energy absorption or energy release, and these are named as exothermic and endothermic. In physical change also both are possible, and in chemical change also both exothermic and endothermic changes are possible. One by one we will deal in details about the physical and chemical changes. Before that we will have a general definition. So these changes, whenever these changes are taking place, physical or chemical changes, what is happening? Energy in the form of heat, it can be taken in, means energy can be absorbed, or the same energy can be evolved or given outside. It can be in a physical change or in a chemical change. Energy can be absorbed or energy can be given out. If the energy is given out in a particular change, if the energy is given out, heat energy is evolved, then that change is called as exothermic change. And second thing, when the heat is taken in, if in any kind of change heat is taken in, means heat is being absorbed. For that reaction to happen, for that change to happen, heat is absorbed, then that kind of change can be called as endothermic change. Both the definitions are important and you have to learn. So let me read there. A change during which heat is given out, evolved in other words you can also call released or produced, that is called as exothermic change. Second definition, a change during which heat is taken in or absorbed, that is called as endothermic changes. Many changes are there which are neither exothermic nor endothermic. Yes, there are such kind of changes where energy change do not apply there. We can say the example of when we are preparing a mixture of sand and salt. We take some sand, we take some salt, and we mix both of them. Then in that kind of mixture, when we are preparing this mixture, neither heat is released nor it is absorbed. So we can say it is a mixture, and the preparation of the heterogeneous mixture is an example where energy changes are not involved. This is important. You have to remember, the question can be asked, give an example. The question will be like, give an example of a change where energy change is not involved. So answer what you will say? The answer you will say the preparation of heterogeneous mixture. When the heterogeneous mixture is prepared, it is an example where energy changes do not apply. Now we will move on to the next topic of this energy change, we will now see in the physical change how this exothermic and endothermic are possible. Some examples are there. So physical change, first best example is changes in state. When ice is changed into water and water changes to vapor, that is change in state of matter, solid to liquid, liquid to gas. Now when it is happening is, it is possible only on heating. When ice is heated, water forms. When water is heated, vapor forms. So heat is absorbed by ice to form water, and heat is absorbed by water to form vapor. Because heat is absorbed here, what we will say, this kind of change is endothermic change. It is being absorbed now, so it is endothermic change. On the opposite manner now, if we have to form water to vapor, then what we have to do, we have to cool it down. On cooling, vapors will form water, that is condensation. And on water on subject to cooling, when water is cooled down, it will convert into ice, that is freezing of water to form ice. So this is happening, or it is possible only when we are cooling it. So when we are cooling water, what is happening, the water molecules are releasing the heat energy. The energy is coming outside from the water and it is converting into ice. Slowly the molecules are coming close to each other. So that is on cooling it is happening, that is heat is released there. Because heat is released, what we will say now, it is an example of exothermic change. So both kind of changes are possible in the change of state of matter. On heating, we can say endothermic change. On cooling, that is opposite of that, reverse of that reaction only, that is here it is exothermic. On heating, endothermic. On cooling, exothermic. Now we will move here, the reason they have given, why it is happening, why this change of state is happening, energy change is happening on the change of state. We will see this is related to the kinetic energy possessed by the molecule. In the previous chapter, we have learned the kinetic energy theory. Now in the solid, the molecules are tightly packed where there is negligible space for them to move, but in the liquid, the molecules are having some space to move, and in the gas, the molecules are having maximum space. So we can say what is happening there. When we are heating, what is happening, the solid molecules will start vibrating. There is vibration in them, and slowly they will start to move. Vibration turns into movement there, and the molecules will will start moving. The solid becomes liquid. So on heating only, the molecules are getting energy. So what is the reason for the change of state, for the energy change here? The energy changing is coming because of heating only. Kinetic energy is increased on heating and kinetic energy is decreased on cooling. That is the reason for the energy change in these changes of state. The next one now, another example we will see here of the physical changes, dissolution. Dissolution means we are dissolving some substances to form a solution. When we are dissolving something, we will read this activity that is about the glucose. So this, when we take some glucose, we can take a few spoons of glucose, couple of spoon of glucose, and we will add in water. So when glucose is added to water, we will observe that water has become colder now. The glucose solution is colder than the normal water. Why is it so? Because glucose molecules will absorb the heat there. Glucose molecules will absorb the heat from the water, and that is why we can say it is an endothermic change. Because glucose is absorbing heat from water, it is an endothermic change. Another one we'll read there, that is when we put glucose on our tongue, then also your tongue will feel cool. Why is it so? Because while dissolving in the moisture of the tongue, our tongue is having moisture, so that moisture is absorbed by the glucose, and here also absorption of heat is taking place. Glucose absorbs the heat on our tongue, and we can say that it is an endothermic change. Another example is of exothermic now. Dissolution only we are reading. Now what we are dissolving? Now we are dissolving acid in water. That is bathroom acid. That actually it is what? It is concentrated hydrochloric acid. So if we dissolve acid in water, then what will happen? That will produce a hot solution. That water will become very hot. It will release lot of heat. It will release a lot of heat. Then we can say it is an exothermic change. So two examples we have seen. One is glucose. One is glucose with water. What is there? It will absorb the heat, and we can say it is endothermic change. On the other side is we have seen acid, that is bathroom acid or hydrochloric acid. When it is put in water, here heat is produced outside. So what we can say, it is exothermic in nature. In both the things we are dissolving in water, it is dissolution. One dissolution is of glucose, that is endothermic. Another dissolution is of acid, that is exothermic in nature. Now the question arises here, why an energy change in dissolution? Why there is an energy change here? Dissolution we have seen, but why the change is coming? For understanding that, we have to understand the pattern of the arrangement of molecules. Solute are having some molecules, that is solute, and it is mixed with what? It is mixed with another substance that is called as the solvent. Now when both of these things are mixed, then what we will get? We will get a solution. So let me choose the color again. So now we will get a solution, that is a solution. Now in the solution, what is there? It will have both the molecules of the solvent as well as the solute. So solvent molecules are there and also the solute molecules are there. In the same thing, you can see solute molecules are there and also the solvent molecules are there in the same thing only. So in the same volume only, now number of molecules has increased. Earlier the molecules were less. Here you can see less molecules. In solvent also less molecule, but in solution the number of molecules has increased. What it will affect now? It will affect the movement of the molecules, because now there is less space to move. So there will be effect on what? The movement of the molecules will be restricted now. So that will affect what? It will affect the kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is affected because of this, and because of this we can say the kinetic energy is changing. There is some kind of energy changes that are coming here. I hope you understood. Solute molecules and solvent molecules. In the solvent both are there. The solute molecules are taking place in between the solvent. Solute particles hide themselves there. Let me read here what is written. The solute particles break down and they hide themselves in the intermolecular space of the solvent, and it will affect the kinetic energy. And in the previous chapter number 1, we have already learned that kinetic energy is dependent upon what? It is dependent upon temperature. If the temperature increase, kinetic energy also increase. If temperature decrease, kinetic energy also decrease. So I hope you have understood now. On dissolution there is energy change. It is dependent upon the kinetic energy. Now we will move on to the next topic, that is about the chemical changes. In chemical changes also both exothermic as well as endothermic changes are possible. How is it so? Let us understand with the help of these examples. First one is burning. Burning is a chemical change, and whenever anything is burned, a lot of heat is produced. So because heat is produced, what we will say? It is an exothermic change. So heat and light are emitted. We can say burning is exothermic in nature. Second one, photosynthesis. Photosynthesis takes place when? Because of absorption of sunlight or sun energy. Sun energy is what? Sun is giving us heat energy. So sunlight is giving heat energy to the leaves, and using that heat energy only food is prepared in the leaves or in the plant body. So photosynthesis is done on absorption of heat. So what we will say? We will say that photosynthesis is what? It is an endothermic change. I hope it is clear. Next one we have is the slaking of lime. Here you can see the third photograph here, that is slaking of lime. So in this process what is happening? Quicklime is reacted or dissolved in water and it will produce slaked lime. So when quicklime is put in water, that water starts boiling on its own without heating only. That is because a lot of heat is generated that makes this water it will almost boil only. So this quicklime converts into slaked lime by addition of water. Quicklime converts into slaked lime. It is used in whitewashing the homes. You can see this reaction in your homes. So this is slaking of lime, and here a lot of heat is generated, and therefore we can say it is an example of exothermic change. Slaking of lime is an exothermic change. It is a chemical change only. So all these are chemical changes: burning, photosynthesis and slaking of lime, and they are of different kind, exothermic and endothermic changes. Now the question again, why there is energy change in chemical changes? Whenever chemical changes are happening, what is the reason of variation of energy? It is absorbed or it is released. So let us understand. Whenever chemical change is taking place, there is a rearrangement of atoms. Different atoms are joining each other. Breaking of atoms is there. Breaking of molecules is there. Molecules break down and new molecules or new product molecules are formed. New product molecules are formed there because breaking of molecule is there and new formation of molecule is there. That will involve the absorption and release of energy changes. So energy changes are related to this only. Energy changes are coming in chemical change because of breaking and formation of molecules of the atoms. That is the reason. And as the result of the breaking and formation of the molecules, we will calculate that there is a surplus of energy or there is a deficit of energy. What is surplus? Surplus means extra energy. So if after the chemical reaction extra energy is remaining there, then we will say that energy will be produced outside, it will be released outside. Then it is called exothermic change. If after the reaction there is a deficit of energy, deficit means shortage, less energy is there now, so there is a shortage of or deficiency of energy. So shortage of energy will lead to what? It will lead to absorption of energy. It still needs energy, already shortage is there, how it can be released? So shortage of energy will lead to absorption of energy. So this line you have to remember. If there is surplus, energy is given out. If there is deficit energy, the energy will be taken in. Surplus means surplus will lead to exothermic reaction, deficit energy will lead to endothermic reaction. So that is all for this energy change in a chemical change. We will now move on to the next part, energy requirement for the completion of a change. Both the endothermic and the exothermic are the types of energy changes, and they have their different energy requirements. First is endothermic change. It needs to absorb the energy. Energy is absorbed in endothermic change. So whenever endothermic change is happening, the substance will require energy from outside. We have to supply energy from outside, only then the reaction can take place. If we stop that energy supply, if we stop heating, then the endothermic reaction will also stop. A very nice example is given here, that is happening in the rainfall time. In the sky it is happening. Air is containing different gases. It can be nitrogen gas and it can be oxygen gas. Both are naturally present in the air, and when rainfall is going on, there lightning take place. As the lightning takes place, lightning is actually heat energy only. This heat energy will allow both the nitrogen molecule and the oxygen molecules to do a reaction. Nitrogen in the air and oxygen in the air, both of these combine together. When they combine, when lightning is there, otherwise they will not combine. Normally no reaction is happening. Only when lightning will take place, this reaction will happen there. And what is produced is, they will produce NO, that is nitric oxide. Another compound, nitric oxide, is produced. So that is, this reaction is endothermic reaction. Why is it endothermic? Because it takes place only in the presence of heat energy. From where this heat energy is coming now? That is coming from lightning. In the rainfall only for a fraction of second. When the lightning take place, only for those fraction of second, this reaction happens. Very fastly it happens, and as the lightning stops, the reaction also stops. So that is formation of nitric oxide. We have seen endothermic change, and what we have learned just now, that endothermic change requires energy, and this change will continue only for that time until when the heat is supplied. If the heat supply is stopped, the endothermic change will also stop. That is for endothermic change. Now for the exothermic change, what is the energy requirement? That is, we have learned now that exothermic is what? It is releasing energy, so it should not absorb energy. No? So there is no need of energy. Let us see these examples. First is condensation of vapor. Vapor change into water. Vapors are forming water. So from the vapor we are getting, from the water vapor we are getting water. So that is happening on its own. We don't need to do anything. Vapors will convert into water on their own. No heat is required for that. So that is an exothermic change. No heat is required for this reaction. Similarly, another reaction they have given, when dilute HCl, that is hydrochloric acid, when it is added to sodium hydroxide, that is NaOH, then what we will get? We will get a new compound, a new chemical is formed. What is happening here? Sodium and chlorine combined together. Chlorine from HCl and sodium from NaOH, that is sodium hydroxide. What we will get? NaCl will get, and remaining thing H and OH, they will both combine and they will give water. So HCl acid plus NaOH gives NaCl plus H2O. So this is the reaction. This is normally happening. No need of heating here. This is another example of exothermic change. Here also heating is not required. So many exothermic reactions are there where heating is not required. But you would be amused to know that in exothermic reaction also heating is required. Yes, exothermic reactions also need sometimes heating to be done. Just now previously we have seen that burning is an example of exothermic change. Whenever we are burning something, heat is produced outside. You take a piece of paper and burn that, it will release heat. That is obvious, but burning does not take place on its own. Let us have these examples here. Exothermic changes which will need some heat only to start them. They cannot be initiated without heating. If we are not heating, then that exothermic change will not start. Just now I told burning needs some heating to start. If you take a piece of paper and you want to burn it, if you are not heating that paper, it will not burn. For starting the burning process, you need to heat it. You need some fire to begin the process of burning. So that is why we can say some exothermic reactions or changes are there which cannot be initiated without heating. One example we have seen, burning. Second one now they have given is hydrogen does not react with oxygen until they are mixed. You take a container and in that container you put hydrogen gas and oxygen gas. Both of them are put together, but they will not react in normal situation. In that same container, if you are heating them, if it is kindled, if it is heated or ignited, then what will happen? This mixture will explode. Explosion will take place and a blast will take place, and it will lead to the formation of water vapor also, because explosion has taken place. It is a highly exothermic reaction. Hydrogen and oxygen are present in air also, but they are not reacting. Normally they are not reacting. But if you take a mixture of these gases and heat them and ignite them, then explosion will take place. It is a highly exothermic reaction. Second, burning already we have seen. The third one you can see here in the photograph that is given, that is a mixture of iron metal and sulfur metal. If we take normal iron metal and sulfur metal in a ratio is there, that is 7:4. Iron is Fe and sulfur is S. If we are taking both of them, nothing will happen. 7:4 means what? 7 parts of iron and 4 parts of sulfur. Normally nothing will happen. But if this mixture is heated, on heating what will happen? It starts to glow. You can see in the photograph there, the mixture is glowing. It is emitting light. So that is happening only on heating. And this glowing starts on heating. After that it has started to glow, you can stop the heating. Then also no problem, it is still will continue to glow only until it is hot. It will continue to glow, and on cooling down, if you cool down this mixture, then what you will get? Then you will get Fe plus S, we will get FeS. What is FeS? FeS is iron sulfide. That is iron sulfide, and it is black color solid, black grayish color solid, black gray solid. So that is iron sulfide is formed in this reaction. So these are some examples of exothermic change which will produce heat, but for starting this reaction they need some initial heating only. Without heating, this reaction cannot be started. So that is all. We have seen the different kinds of endothermic and the exothermic changes and their energy requirements. In the endothermic change, continuous heating is required. If heating stops, the reaction also stops. In the exothermic changes, there are certain kind of exothermic change. In the beginning they will need heat. After that you can stop heating, no problem will be there. The reaction will continue on its own. So that is all for this chapter. Explanation is now complete. We'll now move on to the question answer part, the exercise part of this chapter. We'll have a look on these answers. You can note down these answers now. Here we have the question answers of the chapter number 2. You can take a pause of the video and note down these answers. All these answers have to be written in the class notebook, and you have to learn these answers as well. In the upcoming week, we will be having a revision test of the chapter number 2, and you have to be ready for the test. Learn all the question answers, all the exercise part, the book exercise, as well as you have to read the book. Some internal questions may also be asked. All these questions you have to note down in the copy only. Each and every question you have to do in the copy. Here are the long questions and their answers. Some answers are changed. Those who are having the old book as well, please note these answers. See, some answers may be changed there. If the table is there, let me put it on the right. So that is all for all these answers. Do complete the work and be ready for the revision test in the upcoming week.